pleasure to introduce Dr. Jason Alviene. A lot of you are getting very familiar with him. He is a chiropractor, also my mentor. He was my professor at one point. So I'll give this over to him. So glad to have everyone here. Please, to keep everybody comfortable, keep your masks on. If you do need to use the restroom, feel free to come around, and I do have hand sanitizers. Other than that, here is Dr. Jason.
Thank you, thank you. All right, so anybody new from last week in here that I didn't see? Yeah, no one new, okay. Everyone, with the mask, it's always hard to tell, but I'm gotta get used to the eyes here. Again, by a show of hands, do you mind if I remove the mask because I'm staying up here? Make it easier for you to be able to hear me. Okay. Again, I'm staying up over here, and as you can even hear, the mic sounds better immediately when we remove that off of there because it stops the airflow to the mic anyway. So who had an interesting week paying attention to themselves and what they do? Anybody? Anybody write some stuff down? Okay. Good. Well, we're going to hit a sharing point here, and when we do, Bea will go around with the mic so you can share. We get involved with what we did last week, but we're going to jump up on this here. And this week, as we're looking at what the purpose of your pull is. So, like we said, we learned about it last week on what it was, on how you have certain types of predispositions that you tend to be pulled towards. You tend to make decisions based on your emotion, and you tend to have certain emotions that you tend to fall under whenever you're making your decisions. So let's see if this one works here. Yes, it does. Pulling emotions. So your emotions will direct again, that you get pulled into that certain emotion, and then it's going to direct that decision-making capacity. So all of you out there, we talked about morning affirmations last week. Some of you were doing them. Did any of you add them over the week or at some point during the day, doing any affirmations on how you wanted your day to go? Any changes there? Okay. Good, good. We got some changes in the back. So you can change whenever you would like to. Comfort, certainty, familiar. So when we make decisions, we make them based on what's most comfortable for us. The color you wear for your shirts, the type of shoes you put on, what you have for breakfast, the people you talk to, the shows you watch, the books, the types of books that you read, the routine that you have during the day. You tend to pick and do the same things over and over again. And this is just a normal. A routine is a good thing to have, but the routine is what keeps you in that comfort zone. And that comfort zone is what you tend to get pulled towards, your normal decision making. When you make those decisions, you know how the food is going to taste. You know how that shirt's going to fit you. You know that you're going to feel better if you're wearing blue or red or whatever that color is that's favorite for you. If you wear pants or a dress, you know which one you're more comfortable in. Shorts, the types of shoes, you're picking that, and you're certain you're going to be comfortable in those things, so you tend to pick those again. The familiarity that comes with it. You're familiar. You know what it looks like, how it goes, how your hairstyle. Anybody in here change their hairstyle in the past week? No. Anybody change their hairstyle in the past month? No. Right, how about the past 6 months? I bring that one up because the barber shops had closed for a while, and you may not have been getting your hair done. Mine got long for a while. I'm starting to remember me in high school. I let my hair grow long. It was just one of those phases that I think I went through and decided to grow my hair long. My dad didn't like it, but as you know, you always have that little bit of rebellion in you when you're growing up. But you're going to do things that are familiar, certain, comfortable for you, and you will always be drawn towards doing those things. Now, the issue that comes up is your familiarity and your comfort zone versus being put in a situation that is not within your wheelhouse or comfort. That's the only way we learn and grow, is by making decisions or making new things happen outside your comfort zone. And you tend to steer away from those unless you need, for whatever reason, to change. And we're in a completely changed environment right now, and we've already talked about that, but everyone in here has a mask with them. Okay? It's not the most comfortable thing to have on, but you're doing it because the uncertainty that goes with that, with not wearing the mask on. How am I going to be looked at? Am I going to get sick? I want to go and still socialize and be at these events, and I'm required to do these things in order to make it happen. Even if you're uncomfortable, you're learning how to be more comfortable with wearing the mask. All right. Oh, the clicker works. All right, the path of least resistance. Again, bringing up that pull again, we always try to choose the path of least resistance. Unfortunately, the path of least resistance, what worked at one time, as you change and go through in different environments, don't work. I've seen some children have temper tantrums, and then the parents give them whatever they want to get the tantrum to stop. That becomes the path of least resistance for both the parent and the child. I act like this and throw myself on the floor. The parent gives me what I want. Success. That becomes a learned behavior. That becomes that child's pull. They tend to have tantrums. Anybody know an adult that's had a tantrum? I'm sure I have, and I mean me personally. You can have a tantrum because at maybe one point in your life it was the path of least resistance and it worked. But if it's not your parents, nobody's just going to give you what they want. So it can become a path that, even though it's least resistance at the moment, does not get you to the outcome you're searching for. So you have to pay attention to your way of reacting out there. Is it maybe the path of least resistance to throw up your hands and scream, or yell at whatever, or not say anything at all, but you're not getting what you want? You're trying to pick the easiest pathway, but it's not always the easiest pathway because you're not getting the results that you need to have. So easiest path does not always get you to those results, and your pull, you have to know what it is and how it works, and you might have to be uncomfortable for a little bit to get what you want or the results that you're looking for. That's why I have that pathway of lights there. There's only one way for it to go. It's within a tube, so it passes down. However, if there is a blockage in that tube, it won't work, and it would have to change the pathway. All right, this is where I'm going to use B. This was the exercise. So you don't have to share, but it would be beneficial to you and what we're doing here to be able to share, because then we can talk about what you're learning and where you're getting and how we might be able to help each other. So what is your pull? What did you discover about yourself in the past week since I was here? And who would like to start with the sharing? Granted, if you get your sharing out first, we'll probably spend the most time on it. So who wants to volunteer? And here we go. All right. He was the former teacher.
Yes, most of you know I'm a writer. I write for the Weekly.
Okay.
And our minister this week talked about doing a gratification journal. And each night writing down 3 things that you were grateful during the day. And, you know, I guess you could say it, but because you're forced to write it, it reinforces, like, I'm taking notes right now because that's the best way I learn.
Okay.
So the gratification journal with the positive, because there's so much negativity right now with the virus. You got to keep positive. Plus, I gained weight this week at the weigh-in.
Yeah, what was that?
Plus, I gained weight this week at the weigh-in. Right, Sandy? I confess.
So what do you think your emotion, your pull, your normalcy, what do you tend to gravitate towards when you have to make decisions each day? I mean, you pick your comfort, but what is your pull? What's that emotion that you may not like, but you get pulled into when it happens?
Well, I guess I ask myself, is this good for me or not? I mean, I get up every morning, put my shoes on, and I walk the hallways. A lot of mornings I don't want to do that, but I know it's good for me. So.
Okay. So you have that predisposition to say, I don't need to do this today.
Right.
And the path of least resistance is not always the best.
Right. I'd rather lay in bed, but, you know, so.
Yeah, it's amazing how much of a magnet that bed is in the morning sometimes. It's just, it's so comfortable. But other people, it's uncomfortable that they can't wait to get up in the morning because that bed is something that just, I can't lay here anymore. It's uncomfortable. All right, who else wants to share? They just don't want you around them. All right, we got a hand up.
Okay, I got it. Okay, my affirmations are more every single morning when I get up. I have a journal that I read, but I just am so thankful for my blessings, so I actually enumerate the blessings and go into depth and everything, and that starts my day instead of at night. And I used to write my affirmations at night, but it's like, okay, you know, maybe I slept better or something, but this way, by actually being cognizant of what they are early in the morning, it sets the mood for the day instead of, oh gosh, now we're gonna have to do away with this or that, or we can't go out. You know, we're scared to go to the beach, we're scared to go anywhere. And it just, it makes me happy.
Okay, good, good. All right, so I am going to basically influence your pull right now, and which means I'm going to influence your emotions. Now, I'm not asking for comments on this. I'm asking you to tell me how this makes you personally feel. Which way does this pull you? And I'm not asking you to answer in front. You need to ask yourself this on internal. So we're going to do a couple of phrases here, and this are going to be polarizing phrases that will affect you. Donald Trump is the greatest president ever in the United States. Okay, so I hear some laughing. It's okay. But every person in here, just by hearing that phrase, you had an emotional pull. You were tugged in one direction. And some of you may want to have jumped up and said, I agree. Other ones may want to say, what is wrong with me? How can you even say that? And that is your pull, because something like that, it automatically is going to affect your emotional state. And just with words like that, you got an effect. Now, words are only about 7% of communication. Who's heard that one before? Words are about 7% of communication. So what's the other 93%? It comes from body language. Okay, body language. And you said emotions. I heard something. Oh, sorry. It's hard to see who's talking with these masks on here. Okay. Facial expression. So body language accounts for about 55%. The tone of the voice is the other 38%. So 93% tone of voice and body language is really communication. I practice this with my dog. What do you think I do? I can get up there and go, "You're such a bad dog." And the dog is all excited. Yet they don't understand language. So it's all about the emotion. You can look at them and go, "Why were you so good today?" And they cower. So humans at the emotional level, at that most primitive brain that we have, which is actually the longest portion of our brain, so it functions the best, we are affected off of other people's body language, tone of voice. The words that come out are really not as important as how we perceive behind here. Who in here has received an email before? We've all received email. Who in here read the email and thought they knew what the other person meant emotionally? And then you said something back in your email and you were completely wrong at the tone and body language that was behind those words that were really only 7%. That's why you're adding those emojis, and they're trying to add that in there to say, you know what, this is supposed to be smile, this is supposed to be funny, this is supposed to be a joke. But then again, because the word is written word lasts forever. Body language and tone of voice, unless it's video recorded, which is happening a lot more now, doesn't last forever. So we have more text than anything. But video recording, tone of voice is starting to get in there. But then we have all the technology geniuses out there that can edit things and make things look however they'd like. We've all seen movies. Wow, look at that place on that movie. I want to go visit. And then you go visit there and you're like, not as nice as the movie. So your emotions can get pulled from visual type of tone of voice and body language. Now, if you are deaf, body language is going to ramp up. If you are blind, tone is going to ramp up. And that's how most communication happens. So what is your pull? Where do you tend to get pulled emotionally? And then where do your thoughts run with it? 7% are the words that you actually say are within communication. The rest of communication, the other 93%, are tone of voice and body language. Correct. Which is why he said you add emotion, the emojis there. But written text, the tone and emotion are the ones that you choose to apply to it. If you're in a bad mood when you read an email, regardless if the email was meant to be happy, you might not see it as so happy. I see social media. Lots of arguments happen on social media, no matter if you add emojis, because the person's emotion, the person's own emotion, their own pull, is adding that other 93% to that written text. Who in here has read a good book? Who in here thought the book was so great they told somebody else to read it and they went, eh? You were in an emotional state and you had a certain type of emotion when you read that book, and you added it to the story. You add your emotion to the story. And if you read the book out loud to yourself, you add that tone of voice. I'll read out loud quite a bit because it projects that tone back into my own ears and emotionally brings it up. If I read quietly, I can do that, but reading it out loud actually adds that emotion in there for me.
Same way with the movie. You can go and just love it and tell somebody else, and they say, well, what did you like about that?
Yeah, your emotional state. Now the difference that happens with a movie, the only difference that happens there is because they add all that visual and actor on there, you can get emotional. Who's cried during a movie or laughed during a movie? Because they've had that ability to be able to do that. You can also get the same effect with a book, but it's You are adding the emotion to it, where a movie, the emotion is added for you. So make sure when you're reading something, before you decide to read it, what emotional mood are you in? Where are you pulled towards? Because if you go and read it and you're in a bad mood, it doesn't matter what you're reading, you're going to assume that the worst of it. And that's what's happening with a lot of this text out there and social media and arguments going on in there, because it's all miscommunication, because it's only 7% of the communications happening. All right, paying attention to your thought. This kind of looked like a record to me here. I had records. I've been around long enough, I have records. So I remember playing records and my mom putting on the record player when I was younger. There was a movie called The Black Hole. Anybody remember that movie from like 1976, 78, I believe? It was called The Black Hole. Okay, well, it was a science fiction movie. I'll relate it closer to Star Wars in the time frame and everything like that, where the soundtrack was a very just orchestra soundtrack. All instruments, there was no sound to it. And I used to have my mom play it all the time, the Black Hole soundtrack. I remember the record, they put it on there, and I'd make her play it over and over and over again. Anybody have their children at some point make you play something over and over and over again on repeat? I did. So, broken record. Are your thoughts a broken record? Are you constantly and incessantly thinking the same thing over and over and over again? Are your thoughts constantly going down the same pathway? Why does it do that? One, you're pulling your emotion. Two, it's comfortable to think about the same thing. It's that comfort level. You make that choice to think of the same thing over and over again. So your thoughts become a broken record. You repeat them, you repeat them, you repeat them, even if you don't like them. You continue to repeat them. You've probably had thought processes that have kept you up at night or physically made you feel ill. This is the part right now where taking those thoughts and becoming constructive with them. I've said this, I believe, last week, but when that thought pops in your head, is this something that I need to be able to do something with? If it's a no, let it go. No, it's not that easy, but it's the start of the process. That thought pops in, oh, I should be doing this, or I need to get this done. Can I handle it right now? No, let it go. Oh, I'm going to give that person a piece of my mind. Why? Ask yourself, why do I need to do that? Is it going to solve anything? Is it going to change them? How are you going to influence the change that you want? And the need to be right should not supersede the need to be in a regular, normal conversations sometimes. We have that need to be right. We hate to be wrong. Anybody here like to be wrong? Who in here, when they find out they are wrong, actually go and tell the other person, whoever it was, I'm sorry, I was wrong? That's a hard thing to do, isn't it? To tell somebody, I'm sorry, I was wrong. And the older you get, I'm finding the easier it is to do. The younger you are, the harder it is to say you were wrong. Anybody have anything to add before I move on to the next one? I see some stuff going on here. Anybody want to say anything? I'm wrong every day. There's always something I do wrong. And when you can admit you did something wrong, what does that leave you open to have done? Change. Yes. You can change the route. If I keep thinking the same thought over and over and over again, and then each day I do the same thing, well, then it perpetuates, it keeps happening. It's that word, what, procrastination? Okay, procrastination. Okay, and the reason you procrastinate and think the same thing over and over again comes back to your pull, and you're comfortable there. You are comfortable there. Okay, opposing poles. Where there's a negative, there's always a positive. You typically have two types of emotion that you are generally in. Who in here knows somebody that seems to be happy all the time? Anybody know somebody they always seem like they're smiling and always seem like they're happy? Okay. Is it you? No? Okay. Who in here knows somebody that's angry all the time? They seem angry all the time. Is it you? Okay. Who in here knows somebody that seems depressed all the time? Depressed or sad. They seem sad all the time. Okay. Who in here knows somebody that complains every single day? They just complain and complain, and the complaint tends to be the same complaint or a similar complaint. It's repeating itself. It's that broken record. But they're getting pulled into that because even though they don't like what's going on, they're comfortable because they can react in a certain way to what's going on. Okay? Get ourselves moving through this. All right. We're going to do an exercise here for a moment. You'll be able to do it right in your spot, so it's not a running exercise. But I want to do an exercise here for a moment, and I want to see where it takes us. I'm going to ask you to remember 3 things. Okay, you're going to ask to remember 3 things. During this process, I'm going to have you close your eyes. I'm going to say 3 different phrases, and you are going to remember the first thought that comes into your mind with it. Okay, there's no right or wrong answer here, but this exercise is going to show where your minds tend to go. So let's have you close your eyes. Right, the first phrase, more of a question, and I'm going to ask a few of you to share. What is your favorite state? Okay, just hold it to yourself, but what is your favorite state? Okay, lock that in and remember it. State. State. S-T-A-T-E. State. Favorite state. Just no questions. Just think of your favorite state. Next question. Your favorite food. Your favorite food. And the last question, your favorite day of the year. Your favorite day of the year. All right, open the eyes, and we're going to have B go around, and we're going to go through these. So who wants to share their 3 first? All right, go right ahead.
State of Maine, and the first thing that came to mind with the food was pizza.
Okay.
And wait a minute, what was the last one I went?
The last one, your favorite day of the year.
Oh, yes, Christmas.
Christmas. Okay. Stuff here.
My favorite state is calm. My favorite food is ice cream. And my favorite day of the year is the 4th of July.
All right.
I thought of Pennsylvania chocolate cake and the 4th of July.
Okay. She's running around with the mic.
My favorite state is Florida. Mind you, I don't know a lot of states. My favorite food is eggs, and my favorite day is New Year's Eve.
Okay, good.
My favorite state is Florida. My favorite food is Italian, all of it. And the last, I would say New Year's Eve on a cruise ship.
Okay.
Any more?
Can I share?
Florida, vegetarian, and my favorite day is every day.
Okay.
My favorite state is relaxing out on the beach in Florida, calm. And Thai food, I love Thai food. You just never want to ask what you're eating if it's real Thai food. And my favorite day is any Friday.
Any Friday. All right, so thank you for the ones that shared. So the key that I asked in there was that word favorite. When you're thinking about chocolate cake, a state of calmness, or your favorite state of Maine, pizza, Italian food, calm on the beach, vegetarian, you're thinking of all things that make you feel better at that moment. So you get pulled towards those things, and immediately, how much happier did you feel thinking about those? We influenced your emotion by using that word favorite. Now we can do the opposite. We can do the opposite. What's the worst state to be in? And yes, you were exactly right. Communication is key. That's why I use the word state, because it could be a state as in a geography location, or a state as in the mood that your mind is in, the mood that your body is in at the time. But that word favorite changed everything. So yes, that was 7% of the communication, but I had your eyes closed and you listened to my tone of voice as well as we went through there. And everybody in this room feels a little bit better because you got to think about things that you love. And we go the opposite way. This is that influence you need to do on yourself to get you into that perfect pull. When you start noticing that you're on the opposite end of where you typically like to be, or you're not happy, don't engage with other humans that you could influence into your type of personality at that point, that emotion. Bless you. But the way I just influenced all of you to feel a little bit better by thinking about that, you can influence others too. But you can't do it with just words. It's got to be with that tone of voice. It's got to be with that body language. When somebody's in that irate or that depressed type of thing, don't have the conversation with them of being depressed. Change the emotional state. And you can change the emotional state by keeping yourself in a good emotional state. Here's two things that happen when you have two opposing poles from two different people next to each other. Either one or the other of the persons there, their emotional pull will change closer to the other ones. So if you have somebody with a negative emotion going on, and you come in with a positive emotion, that negative emotion will influence you and actually make you feel a little more sad. Who's actually felt more sad when they were around a sad person? Okay. Who's felt more happy when they were around a happy person? Who, when they were angry, felt annoyed to be around a happy person? Okay. So the two things that can happen, either your emotion will change to match the environment, or you'll leave the environment. Those are the two things that happen. Okay? When somebody's irate and screaming in a store, we've all been there before, you're standing on line and somebody's screaming there. How uncomfortable do you get standing there while that person's screaming? You just want to leave, don't you? But you got all your stuff in your carriage. You're like, I still got to pay for this. Can this get over with quickly? I don't like this energy. Because it's going to influence yours. Unless you can influence theirs to calm down. Now, there's always that person that says, hey, calm down. Worst thing you can say to somebody that's mad. Because it's not about them calming down, it's about them getting out that negative energy that they have. They have to figure a way to disperse it. And that's what we have to do here. So those opposing poles, dispersing that energy, working on those morning affirmations, figuring out and paying attention to yourself when you start going down the rabbit hole, start going down to that lower end where you don't like to be. And at the same time, paying attention to the other people you're around. You start seeing them go down that hole, ask them what their favorite state is. Ask them what their favorite food is. Ask them what their favorite day of the year is. Put those emotions in their head and change their emotional playing field for them. If they don't want it, they're going to leave. Or you're going to leave. You're going to separate because like attracts like. You're going to be around the same type of people that enhance the emotional mood that you are in. And if you're in a bad mood, we've all left a situation before because you're mad. Oh, they seem too happy. I don't want to be here. I'm not ready to be happy right now. Okay? All right, next up, got next on here. This, let's kind of dive into this for a moment here. This is going to be all next week's lecture. And I'm going to really need everyone's participation for this one. And it can be about anything. But dynamic listening. Dynamic listening. This is a way to release that pull that you do not want to be in, that emotion that you do not want to be in there. Dynamic listening. Sometimes the dynamic listening can be by yourself, but most of the time it's with another person or a group of people. So we're going to need some active speaking next week so we can practice dynamic listening. What dynamic listening is, we've all heard of passive listening and active listening, correct? We've all heard of that. And active listening is when you've got your ear to the other person and you're paying attention to every word they say. Words are how much in communication? 7%. So active listening and listening to every word they say, is that really going to help if you're only listening to 7% of what they're actually telling you? The words are only 7% of what they actually tell you. So dynamic listening is listening not just to the words, but allowing that tone of voice and that body language to exude. Anybody here exercised before till they were so tired of exercising they had to stop? If you've ever run a marathon, a 5K, a 10K, swimmer, lifting weights, you hit a point of exhaustion. Dynamic listening allows the release of that energy, allows the release of that emotion to the point of exhaustion. If you've ever listened to somebody ramble on and you don't interrupt, and you kind of throw things in here or there just to show that you are paying attention to them, they hit a point where they go, I'm done. So we'll talk about this next week. We're going to really hit into dynamic listening. I'm going to ask for you to be participants, obviously, at our 6-foot, 10-foot rule here. B will be going around with the microphone, but we're going to do some dynamic listening. So I want you to come up with yourself a topic for next week, one that really gets your blood boiling, and one that makes you super excited. Now remember, we're in a judgment-free zone here, so no matter what you believe, it's okay to let out. Okay? No matter what it is that you believe. Doesn't matter what it is, because again, it's not about the words that are coming out of the person's mouth. Okay? We're going to be paying attention to and working on the dynamic listening portion of paying attention to the emotions and the body language that go with it, and allow it to change the energy in this room to the point to where we have a wonderful, wonderful feeling when we leave here next week. Okay, so 2 topics, a little bit of homework. Okay, you guys did well with the homework this week, so I'm sure you'll do well with it. And now we don't like the word homework, so activity, right? I'll pull activity. It's not required, I won't grade it. For those of you that still get that flashback to school. Right? Who has questions or concerns they'd like to get up? She's back there with the mic, so go ahead.
I'll try to shout. If I said to you, Dr. J, the building's on fire.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it seems like 7%. I said 3 or 4 or 5 words, and that's about 80% of the information.
All right, I'm gonna repeat what he just said there.
Or 90. I mean,
He says to me, the building's on fire.
No, I said the building's on fire.
There we go. So what did you do differently there?
All right, but I could say it's raining out. That's not a lot of the emotion.
But I can see that you have passion and emotion behind that. Yeah. If I go like this and be like, all right, everyone, seems the building's on fire.
But that's...
So there's not a sense of urgency there. When you say the building's on fire, yes, we know what's going on, but you're creating an emotional response that gets everybody moving and doing what they need to do to safety. You could say, it's raining outside, and yes, we go, it's raining outside, and then everybody's going to turn and look for the rain. So it is a directional term. Don't get me wrong, 7% is directional. But if you just came in here and just opened the door and went, hey, everyone, building's on fire, and left, are we going to believe you? No, because your tone of voice and body language that went with it didn't do much.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. He wants to be right. I don't want to be right, but I just the emotion that comes behind it really sets that urgency.
7% seems like a no number, but anyway.
I know it does. I know it does. But when you do dynamic listening, you find out that the words and repeating and trying to memorize every word that somebody tells you as active, which is traditionally taught in active listening, listen to every word and repeat it back to them to show that you're listening. That's just memorization, and it doesn't allow you to become empathetic towards what the person actually is trying to say. Because a lot of times, what somebody's saying, at the end they go, that's not what I meant. That's not what I meant. So when you let them get it out and get everything out, we find a little better. But I love that point there. The building's on fire. Well, hopefully other people in other room aren't trying to run out now. But that would be, if you're not doing it with urgency, you might not, who's had that teacher before? So everyone, we're going to do this math problem now. It's that monotone, lower voice. It's meant to put you to sleep. Puts me to sleep. I don't know about you. Did I put anybody in here to sleep today? I don't know. All right, who's got another one? Let's get the mic on here so we get everybody to hear.
But you would not have been as effective if you had your mask on.
Oh, no.
right.
Because facial expression, that's part of body language. It's huge, huge a part of that. Yes. This or this. So yes, so facial expression has been brought away. So we have to look at when I see people outside and I have my mask on and I'm seeing them because I still see patients. I can tell your eyes are smiling. I'm really looking and focusing at the eyes on which way are they going, what are they doing, are they slumping, what's going on? Because you can't see the mouth, which is a huge part of it. A huge part of that body language is covered. So we have to pay attention to what's going on from the eyes. You can tell when somebody's eyes are smiling. You can tell when they're down. All right, anybody else? No? Next week, I want you to come in with a topic to be able to speak about that really gets your blood going, get your blood boiling. And a topic that gets you elated, excited, something that makes you super happy that you can also talk about. Because I want to show in dynamic listening what you do to enhance this. How dynamic listening enhances the ability to let that person's energy either affect you because they're excited and you want to be excited, or it's a volatile type of emotion that can create tension, and how to let that dissipate without it affecting you. Dynamic listening is the way to do that. And it comes down to, you don't have to be right, you have to be empathetic. Huge part of the process. An example? Getting your blood boiling? All right. Let's do an example here. Does it bother anybody with all the construction that's going on? Think about that construction that's going on. I mean, if you're inside, yes, but if you're out on the highways or you end up going out driving and there's construction going on and it seems like it's always going on and there's stuff on the highway, and a few months ago something kicked up and tore a hole in the hood of my car. I had to have it replaced. It's a true story. And it gets your blood boiling. You get frustrated with it. Okay? Something like that. Something that gets you super excited. What makes you happy? Who was the person that really liked eggs? Is that eggs? All right. Eggs, the most exciting food ever. You can do so many things with it. You can hard boil it, you can fry it, you can bake it, you can grill it. There's so many different things that you can do with it. You can make it soft, you can make it hard, you can add it to make breads, you can make cakes with it. It's just such an exciting, so she can get excited about the process of eggs. So we want to bring something in that makes you excited. I just picked on eggs because I love eggs too. I can make them any way you want. You tell me how to cook, there's always a way to cook an egg, and it's just about heating it up, and it changes. It changes. So it adds heat to it, and it changes. So we're going to add heat to your conversations next week, and we're going to see if we get some change. Hopefully it doesn't harden you and it softens you a little bit. more like when you put a bean in boiling water, it softens where the egg hardens. All right? Thank you. I appreciate you all coming out and listening, and I'm glad I'm able to get some help out there.